Hi, I'm Tony of Fairfax County Master Gardeners, and for those enrolled in the virtual home turf program, this is a quick guide to help you understand how to measure and calculate the lawn area that we'll need to work with. When we apply a product such as lime or fertilizer to our lawns, we have to be sure that we apply the right amount. Most such commercial products will tell us the rate to apply, but that's only half the equation. Knowing the area of the lawn gives us the needed information to determine how much lime and fertilizer in pounds per 1,000 square feet to apply at the prescribed rate. What's even more important is not applying too much of anything so that we avoid environmental risks such as groundwater pollution. We also don't want to buy too much because it wastes money, and even if we buy too much, we sometimes feel compelled to use it all, even though it's not needed. And that's simply not environmentally sound. Although there are software programs that use satellite imagery to help measure property, we're going to stick to the old school way of doing this. While it is not fast, it is more accurate to measure a lawn by walking it and taking the actual measurements. We're going to be looking for measurements in feet. So when you measure in feet and inches, don't forget to convert the inches into decimal equivalents before calculating your area. For example, convert 3 inches to 0.25 feet. Or as a short illustration, a square with equal sides of 4 feet 6 inches actually equals 4.5 feet on each side. And the area, just by multiplying those sides, gives us 20.25 square feet. We don't want to use the figure 4.6, that is the 6 inches, by 4.6, because that's going to give us a different answer. That's going to give us a little over 21 square feet. It may not be a big difference, but in the long term, you want to be as accurate as you can, because the nutrient management plan will be wrong if the area is wrong. So to get the correct decimal value, simply divide by 12. 1 inch equals 1/12, or 0.08 feet. This isn't as daunting as it sounds. In short, the lawn is going to be broken down into several large shapes that we ourselves imagine and then visualize and then measure. Let's take a look at how. First, remember that it is only the actual lawn areas, or more precisely, the permeable turf, that we're measuring. When you sign up for virtual home turf, you'll receive a basic plat of your home. A plat is a drawing of the boundaries of your property. And please refer to the booklet sent to you for our program goals, terms, tools, and instructions for the care and feeding of your lawn. See if you can visualize your lawn as a series of basic subshapes that are easy to measure, that are primarily squares, rectangles, or triangles. Hardscapes, such as patios, sidewalks, and driveways, may already be sketched in for you on this plat, but if not, sketch them in before you measure. In this illustration, let's assume that the area around the house is all lawn, without trees or flower beds. Yes, this is boring, but it makes for an easy to follow example. In real homes, you will have landscape areas to measure around, so remember, there is no one best way to divide up your lawn areas into these little shapes. Just do the best you can. When the shapes are identified, we use mathematical formulas that we learned in geometry class to calculate the area. If you haven't used this information in a while, the internet can show you the way. You can get complicated with trapezoids and parallelograms and such, but it is best to keep to the simple shapes of squares, rectangles, or triangles. For this example, measuring each shape over the entire lawn allows us to add the series of smaller measurements together to give us the total square footage of the lawn. The Nutrient Management Plan, or NMP, you will receive is developed specifically for your lawn. and is based on the pH results from your soil test and the lawn's total square footage. You will receive a final drawing of your plat from our team that uses your measurements and sketches you note on the draft and photos that we'll ask you to submit if needed. Now let's do a little exercise on a typical yard. This lawn has a curved border against the shrub bed, and the sidewalk itself is curved. The next slides will illustrate one way of visualizing the shapes that can be considered as you use them to do partial measurements of your lawn. But remember, there is no single way to do this. Tools for measuring can be standard measuring tape. Using a tape that has at least a 25-foot length will satisfy most needs. It's also important to avoid overlap or underlap when measuring these subshapes, so use markers of your choice to note the areas the shape is covered before going on to measure the next shape. Examples of markers are flags that utility workers use, or any type of marker, be it a rock or any other piece of material. One good technique when visualizing shapes within lawns is to try to identify the largest shape you see. In the above example, that would be a rectangle. We'll call it area or shape A. Note how it appears to cover a fairly large portion of the lawn surface that we're measuring. If the actual measurement of this shape were 20 feet by 8 feet, then simply multiplying length times width would provide a measurement of 160 square feet. But there are several additional smaller areas that need to be measured on the top and near the bed, and then the small area to the left of the sidewalk. These remaining two areas could be imagined as variants of a triangle. For triangles, the formula is base times height times 1/2 or 0.5. We'll call the top triangle area B. We know that the base of this triangle is 20 feet from having measured the length of the adjacent rectangle, but we'll also need the height, which is a perpendicular line from the base to the highest part of the triangle. It turns out that this measures 2 feet 6 inches, or 2.5 feet. So we get the area by calculating 20 feet times height, which is 2.5 feet, giving us 50 square feet. And then we take half of that, and by multiplying by 0.5, that calculates to 25 square feet. And looking at the second little triangle to the right, which is identified as area C, we'll use the same formula. We measure the base and the height, which come to 4 feet and 2 feet respectively. So, as before, we multiply 4 times 2, giving us 8, and then multiply that by 0.5 or 1/2, and that gives us an area of 4 square feet. Taking the results of all three of these simple calculations, we add them and see that the square footage is 189 square feet. To get the total square footage for this front lawn, you would need to go through the same process for the lawn on the other side of the walkway. At some point, we could encounter curved or irregular borders. Depending on the layout of the yard, this could be relatively easy to do, but a little more challenging. So instead of trying to measure the precise layout of the curve, simply convert the curved area to a straight line that bisects the curve, accounting for equal part turf and non-turf. When the curves are converted to straight lines, we can still get a reasonably accurate measure of square footage using rectangles and triangles. Then, as shown in the image on the right, try to imagine some common shapes in the lawn and do your calculation. Often, the lawn area will have a non-lawn feature such as trees or landscape beds. Very often, the tree has or should have a circular mulched area. This area protects the tree roots as well as the base of the tree from mechanical injuries by mowers or weed whackers. The mulched area is calculated very simply. First, measure the radius of the circle using the tree itself as the center, and go out to the edge of the mulch. Take that measure, multiply it by itself, or square it, and multiply it by pi, which is 3.14. For this area, the calculation that we see is a radius of 4 feet, so 4 times 4 times 3.14 gives us a figure a little over 50 square feet. This figure is then subtracted from the actual lawn measurement. In this example, the lawn size, including the mulch circle, is, let's say, 800 square feet. So subtracting the area of the circle, which is 50 square feet, results in a final lawn measurement of 750 square feet. Sometimes such an area in the middle of the lawn could be oval-shaped, and its area, of course, will still have to be subtracted from the full lawn area. To calculate an oval shape, measure the longest axis of the oval, which in this case is 14 feet, and the short axis, which is 7 feet. Multiply them to get a figure of 98 square feet, and then multiply that by 0.80, which equals 78 square feet. The 78 square feet is then subtracted from the already measured lawn area, and if this area was 800 square feet, then removing 78 square feet would give a final lawn area measurement of 722 square feet. The final step in completing your plat is to mark as clearly as possible all of the shapes and dimensions that you measured. This drawing can be hand sketched, but must be legible for the team to convert this to a final yard plat for your records. Once you finish your drawing, you can take a photo or scan of it and mail it to us. Since the team cannot visit your yard, please take photos to accompany your drawings because you are being our eyes. Label each of your photos with the viewpoint of where you took it so as to help identify and anchor which direction you're looking. As an example, if you have some bare spots on the south side of A, take a photo and indicate on your drawing where photo 1 was taken. If you have areas of concern, such as specific weeds or bare spots or poor drainage, be sure to photograph what your concerns are and explain them to the team members working with you. It may take multiple emails, but once you have an image or a scan of your drawing and yard photos that are ready, email all of them with your last name and address on the subject line to turf@fairfaxco, that's FAIRFAXCO, .onmicrosoft.com. In summary, the simplest and the tried and true way to measure the lawn is to visualize how it can be broken up into pieces or geometric shapes within that lawn, and then calculating the area of each of those shapes. The sum of those shapes gives us the area of the lawn, and remember to subtract the non-turf features within the lawn. It is always possible that one person could see lawn shapes differently from another person, and yet with proper measurement and calculation, both will be right. Some yards will be easier to measure than others, so try to visualize what will work. While accuracy is the goal, final measurements don't have to be perfect. So take your time, think it out, do the calculations, and you are sure to produce a good calculation to be used in your final nutrient management plan. And remember, send your image to the address listed here. That's turf@fairfaxco.onmicrosoft.com, and use your last name and address in the subject line. Thanks for listening.